Are you ready for some draft pick trading techniques for 2020 and trading techniques in general? Let's get to it. Let's go. Top 5 running back. You're watching the Fantasy Football Show. Okay, so I'm going to pull up a split screen here and show you guys what I would do if I'm just going to do some draft pick trading and try and get myself into what I like to call a two-headed monster and three-headed monster in fantasy football. Now that could be a couple different things. It could be two top 3 or 4 running backs mixed with a top 1 to 2 quarterback, which is the move I like to make most, because as we learned from last year, Chark, AJ Brown, all these wide receivers, McLaurin, rookies can even thrive now in fantasy football. You can shop cheaply at the wide receiver position and be okay. So if you can grab 2 Saquon Barkley type players in 2020 and then roll into your draft with a Mahomes or a Lamar, and you can do that in some auction leagues, depending on where these guys go for. That is the kind of team I like to build and creatively make, and have a lot of challenges at wide receiver and tight end to overcome and deliver the most dominant team I think I could possibly make through auction. But when you're in a regular snake draft, you have to do some trading. So right here on the board, I have, rounds 1 through 8. Let's say you get the 2 pick overall or something like that. So first step in this trade process is, if you want to amass 2 potential top 5 overall picks and still have depth to build, let's say, another QB spot, or maybe even get another first rounder. You want 3 first rounders. You typically got to start off with having 1 top 3 pick overall already. So we're not going to touch the first rounder. We've been given the number 2 overall, but using the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, we're going to explore ideas of how to accumulate not only 2 top 3, top 4 overall picks, but potentially a 3rd first rounder, or we decide to go quarterback in that 2nd round. But the whole goal here is to do a 2/3-headed monster with this approach. So in order to get another top 3 overall pick, let's make sure we define in this scenario, we want 2 top 3 overall picks. We want to have McCaffrey and Barkley as our target running backs, or McCaffrey and Elliott, or Barkley and Elliott. I don't want to walk away from this without accomplishing getting 2 top 3 overall picks. So the first thing you do is trade. You'd probably have to trade away your 2nd rounder if you're getting a top 3 overall pick. There's just no way you're going to accomplish that, I don't think, without using that 2nd rounder. People just don't want to give it up. The key to getting a top 2 or 3 overall pick is to do a 2-for-1. Nobody wants to do a 1st and 2nd for your 1st and 2nd, or 1st and 2nd for your 2nd and 4th. That doesn't excite anybody. No one's going to be just like, oh my God, I'm going to go get rid of my number 2 overall because I'm getting this even Steven type trade.
Looks fantastic. I'm no longer getting the best player in the deal.
You have to wow them and almost, I don't want to say trick them, but make them think,
oh my God, I'm getting something entirely for free.
People are going to freak out that I've got an extra pick. So that's why you have to do a 2-for-1. You're getting rid of 2 picks, you're getting 1 back, you're enticing them with that extra pick. So if you get rid of your 2nd and let's say your 4th, let's make the picks that we're acquiring in blue so we can tell the difference. So we've got another top 3 pick to go along with the top 3 pick we already got out of the hat. We got rid of our 2nd and our 4th to do so. So in doing that, we created a void. And I'm going to use this color here to kind of show you what void we've created. So our 2nd rounder's in our 1st rounder. We didn't lose it. So we're not out a 2nd rounder. Our 4th rounder, we're completely out. That's our void. So now we have 1 void on the board. So now you have a 3rd, you have a 5th, you have a 6th. What you can then do at that point is go ahead and trade. You might be able to trade your 3rd, your 5th, and your 6th for a low-end 1st round pick. It's possible. I've done it. Okay, so next we want to get another big gun. We want to have, in this scenario, we're going Barkley, we're going McCaffrey, and then we want to go either Lamar or Mahomes, or we could also explore getting one of those elite wide receivers like a Devontae Adams and then trying to get our QB late. Maybe we get a Daniel Jones. Maybe we land somebody else. Maybe we land a combo of like Cam Newton and Phillip Rivers or something, or Brady and Cam Newton, and we do some kind of equally risky duo to kind of man our QB position all year. But for the sake of my argument that the three-headed monster can dominate in fantasy football and the wide receiver depth is so awesome, you could avoid the wide receiver position until the later rounds and potentially build yourself a team that no one can touch in 2020. Let's stick with the Mahomes and Lamar approach. So in order to get Mahomes and Lamar, you could probably get away with trading your third and your fifth to get a very, very top of the second pick in 2020. So let's do that. I think you could get a first, but I'm for the sake of making this realistic and not have people saying,
oh my God, Smitty, no one's going to give up a first rounder for a third and a fifth.
Let's go very top of the second and kind of ease people's mind into making this more realistic for them. Okay, so we'll go third, fifth. Newly acquired pick we said was blue, so we're going to take top of the second right there. Now we've created ourselves another void in round 5. Remember, round 3 and round 2 are not voids. Our round 2 pick we moved up, our round 3 pick we moved into the second at the top of the second. And yes, we have a void here and we have a void here. These are picks we've lost entirely. Okay, now you might stop here. I don't blame you if you want to stop here. 2 voids might feel like risky enough in your mind, and you can still kind of recover with some depth at 6, 7, 8. I don't mind that. So if you like that, that's the way you want to roll. You have Barkley, you have McCaffrey. Again, you started off with that red pick at number 2 overall, number 3 overall. So it is really hard to pull this off if you aren't given one of those picks out of the hat in the randomization of the pick order. But you have yourself McCaffrey, you have yourself Barkley, and then you can pick Lamar or Mahomes, whichever quarterback you think is going to be number 1 in 2020. I personally would take Mahomes. You could then get a wide receiver that you love at 6, 7, and 8. Maybe you're lucky enough and you get a Waller or some tight end in that range. Or you go Devontae Adams with that top of the second, and you take Kyler Murray in the 6th round. All strategies I love, even if you stopped right here. Now, if you want to, what I call kick the can, kick the problem down the road even further, you can get rid of these 2 picks, 6 and 7, or even 6, 7, and 8, and get potentially a 3rd rounder if you wanted. You could get rid of 6 and 7 and probably get a 4th rounder, or you could get rid of 6, 7, and 8 and maybe get a tail end of the 3rd. So let's say you did that. Let's say you got rid of this pick right here. Whoops. You got rid of 8 and you got rid of 6. So you got rid of 6, 7, and 8. That would probably afford you a pick in the 3rd round. Okay, so explaining where your voids are. Your 1st rounder you have right in the 1st round. Your 2nd you moved into the 1st. Your 3rd you moved into the 2nd. Your 4th you moved into the 3rd. So you don't even actually have a void in the 4th round anymore. Your first void in your draft starts now in the 5th round. You have 4 picks in the first 4 rounds, or in the first 3 rounds. So yes, you've created entire voids at 5, 6, 7, and 8, but is that worth it to you in the end to move your 2nd essentially up to the top of the 2nd and your 4th rounder up to number 2 or number 3 overall? You have to determine that for yourself. But now you can have a McCaffrey, a Barkley, a Lamar or Mahomes, an AJ Brown type player, maybe a Chark. I'm looking at a list of players here. Amari Cooper could fall there. Melvin Gordon, Kenny Golladay, Kenyan Drake could fall to the 3rd round, maybe even the 4th, but let's call him a 3rd rounder. Kenyan Drake could climb to the 2nd as soon as any kind of concrete David Johnson gets released or traded. News kicks into gear. But think about that team, and especially in a league where you can start 3 running backs. You have McCaffrey, Barkley, Mahomes, and Drake. And then you go wide receiver sleeper shopping. Yes, it won't be until round 9 that you pick. Yes, you created 4 voids in your draft, but remember, you didn't have to take that kick the can down the road approach, which again, you could even do probably one more time with your 9th and 10th and 11th rounders to get another 7th rounder or 6th rounder or whatever. You could kick that problem down the road even further and create a bigger void for yourself, but it could be in a range where you're not too worried about it, a range where you're potentially looking at almost waiver wire like talent at the draft slots that you're talking about. But for me, I'll take this team all day long and go wide receiver shopping in double-digit rounds. We're talking, well, round 9, 10, 11, 12. I'll go sleeper wide receiver shopping and own not one wide receiver and head in with Drake. Or go AJ Brown, take your first wide receiver in that 3rd rounder that we traded up and go with McCaffrey, Barkley, Mahomes, and then A.J. Brown right there, or Chark, or whoever you like in the third round for your wide receiver. And if you want, you could say, you know what, I'll take a QB late, and you could even pull off a Barkley, a McCaffrey, a Devontae Adams, and a Drake, or an A.J. Brown in this case. But I think doing that and not going with the Mahomes or Lamar approach kind of defeats the purpose of trying to get those late wide receivers down the way. Once you start taking Devontae Adams and A.J. Brown with the picks at the second rounder and third rounder spot, then you're starting to look like, okay, how much better did I make my team? You want to swing big, and you want to try and land those sleepers downstream at wide receiver. So I'm going to end it with this. I would personally, without hesitation, walk into any draft with Mahomes, with McCaffrey, and Barkley, and Drake, or A.J. Brown, or Chark, but preferably Drake in this spot right here, or Eckler if he fell. Eckler could probably go in the second round, we don't know yet. But I would walk into any league with that team right there, and I'd have an ear-to-ear grin walking into that league, ready to dominate. But even taking things back to that first step where we just made the trade to get the number 2 and number 3 overall, we called it, in the top of the second. So you had Mahomes, you had McCaffrey, you had Barkley at that point, and then you still had those other picks, your 6th, 7th, and 8th rounders, to try and accumulate more positions earlier on. I'm okay with that too. I'd walk into any draft with the three-headed monster, which includes the quarterback, the number 1 quarterback in your mind, or at least number 2, because we do have 2 QBs that have potential top 5 overall value per start. Now I think it's Mahomes. I worry about Lamar running and eventually getting hurt, so Mahomes is the guy I'd pick. But let's say you love Lamar as much as I love Mahomes, that's fine. I'm not going to argue with you about which QB has the potential to play like a top 5 overall player at hidden value in the second round. Yes, I said hidden. Mahomes and Lamar, if you feel it's Lamar, that quarterback has value that is worthy of top 5 overall value, but no one's taking him that high. Neither should you, because you don't have to. But give me that quarterback with the 2 best running backs, in my opinion, in the league, or at least 2 of the top 3, and I will flat out dominate, assuming they don't get hurt. Anybody can get hurt, but McCaffrey and Barkley, freaking best 2-headed monster I think we've had in a decade. So if there was ever a year to do the 2-headed monster approach and pair it with the 3-headed monster, but at least do the 2-headed monster, it's this year with Barkley and McCaffrey. Now go get them. Top 5 running back. You're watching the Fantasy Football Show.